So discussion about the next Pokemon games has been a hot topic for the last few days, as a lot of people have been wondering exactly what the next Pokemon games could be, as it's a little too early to move on to Gen 10 and have a whole new generation of new Pokemon, new characters, and new starters and all of that. So it seems like we don't really know exactly what direction Pokemon could go after, of course, the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet DLC wraps up this year with the hidden treasure of Area Zero. Now, according to Riddler Khu, who is the most accurate leaker that we have right now when it comes to Pokemon stuff, this person has gotten stuff correct about Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, Pokemon Legends Arceus, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and also the DLC, so this has been a reputable leaker that we've had for years now, who's been giving us a lot of teases and riddles about stuff that ends up being real. And going off of a lot of the stuff that Riddler Khu has been teasing, it really seems like the next Pokemon games that could be coming out in 2024 are going to be centered around the Unova region and Generation 5, as taking a look at pretty much all of the hints and teases and things that Riddler Khu has given, as well as even stuff that has happened from other Chinese reputable insiders, from other forums and stuff, it definitely seems like they're talking a lot about Pokemon Black and White, which is making a lot of people wonder exactly what type of game we could get, and I've made a lot of videos already going over these types of things because there's been a lot of information that has come out from time to time. So if you haven't seen everything, there should be a little playlist up in the corner right now. You can definitely click on that or tap on that if you want to go and catch up with all the information that we have, as this is going to be talking about just the new information that came out just a few days ago. So from the last batch of information that we got, a lot of people came to the conclusion that we're probably going to have two games that are based around Unova, where it's going to be very similar to what they did with Sinnoh, where we had Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, which were like your traditional faithful remakes of the original Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, just made for the Nintendo Switch, and it was basically one-to-one. And then you had that more ambitious and creative game, which was Pokemon Legends Arceus, and so people felt that it was probably going to be something like that, where we get traditional remakes of Pokemon Black and White, but then also a more creative game, which is probably going to be focused around the Paradox phenomenon, which has been heavily rumored that it's going to be some type of futuristic game that's set in the Unova region. But now, after the follow-up information that we have, it seems like we might have been wrong about this, and that there's only going to be one game that's going to be releasing next year, potentially with two versions, and it sounds like it could be something that a lot of people have really dreamed of, but never really thought would happen. Now this is going to be expanding on the last video where we talked about the original leak, so if you haven't seen that video, there should be a little eye up in the corner right now. You can definitely click on that or tap on that. But if you saw that video, then you know that the two Pokemon that we knew about at the time was one Pokemon which was Dino and one Pokemon which was Doduo. Now the theory that we had from these Pokemon was that both of their final evolutions end up having 3 heads, so maybe it was referring to something with the original dragon, or maybe the original dragon was going to have 3 heads, with one for Zekrom, one for Reshiram, and one for Kyurem, and then that's what split up into each individual dragon throughout the game. It was a very cool theory, but it actually seems like this might have been something about counting instead of it being about 3 heads. And the reason for this is because the follow-up information that we got after was a whole bunch of nuts and bolts emojis, which a lot of people are relating to the Pokemon Magneton. And then after that, the final hint that we got was this image right here with a whole bunch of triangles and stuff, which at first I thought it might be referring to Togekiss or something like that, but it turns out this is actually from a shirt with the Pokemon Probopass on it. And so if we take a look at all the Pokemon now, we've got Dino, which is 1, Doduo, which is 2, Magneton, which is 3, and Probopass, which is 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, it definitely feels like it's something about counting. Now, a really interesting theory that I saw about all of this is that all 3 of these Pokemon can learn a move called Tri-Attack, which is actually a pretty rare attack that a lot of Pokemon aren't able to learn. Now, Tri-Attack is actually one of my favorite moves ever because I just think it looks really cool with its animation, and also I feel like it's a really cool move because it has 3 different things that can happen in terms of status effects. See, when you use the move Tri-Attack, you have the possibility of burning the opponent, paralyzing them, or leaving them frozen. And so it's a really cool move because you could get one of these 3 potential status effects in one attack, and it's really interesting because if we actually take a look at these 3 types of status effects, one of them is about fire, one of them is about electric, and one of them is about ice. Kind of like how Reshiram is a fire type, Zekrom is an electric type, and Kyurem is an ice type, the 3 dragons that make up Generation 5 with Unova. And so all of these teases for Unova and Gen 5 stuff happening in 2024 are just getting more and more interesting, but by far the coolest one that we have right now is actually something that was said on a Chinese forum. Now, a lot of these Chinese forums actually have reputable insiders who have given real information that has turned out to be true, and I know there's one that we all call the Chinese uncle, who's been on one of these Chinese forums and has leaked information since like Generation 7, but they just don't talk as often as somebody like Riddler Khu, who's always been giving information like every day, so it's kind of rare to see them, but their information is also just as accurate. And so one of these leakers was actually talking about it on the Chinese forum, and now if we take a look at all the information that we have right here and translate it, it says right here the response that they said was the first thing is that it's going to be an original and paradox of Pokemon Black and White, which of course that makes you wonder what exactly do they mean by it. And then we have the follow-up information where they asked here, paradox, what is black and white? Like, what do you mean paradox black and white? And here is the biggest piece of information that is getting everybody very, very excited. It says right here from the leaker, think of this as a Game Freak self-developed non-legend series of games, and it could be understood as Pokemon Black 3 and White 3. And so there it is, the most exciting piece of information that we have. It seems like we could actually be getting something along the lines of Pokemon Black 3 and White 3 as the next Unova games that could be coming out next year, which is just insane because of course Pokemon Black 2 and White 2 are incredible games, amazing sequels to Pokemon Black and White, and nobody ever really thought of the possibility of having a follow-up to that so many years later and having like a Pokemon Black 3 and White 3, but it seems like that could be potentially what we're getting next year. Now, it's important to remember here that they said to think of this as Pokemon Black 3 and White 3, not that it literally is going to be that, so don't expect the games next year to actually be called Pokemon Black 3 and White 3, but basically whatever they decide to do with this whole like futuristic, ambitious, creative paradox game that's going to be set in Unova, it's kind of going to be like Pokemon Black 3 and White 3. Now, they also confirmed in this message that it's going to be a Game Freak developed game and it's not going to be a Legends style game. So if you were hoping for like a Pokemon Legends Kyurem or a Pokemon Legends Victini or something like that, unfortunately it's not going to be the case according to what we have right now, and it's probably going to be like a more traditional just mainline game, which does make me very disappointed as well because I actually really loved the gameplay of Pokemon Legends and I would love to see them translate that into like an actual main series game as well, where it's not really so based around the past and trying to make the very first Pokedex and all of that, but actually having like a traditional game where you go around gyms or something like that. And I really love the whole aspect of being able to like dodge roll to avoid attacks from wild Pokemon and being able to throw the Pokeballs yourself. Like I feel like having a whole futuristic like game about Unova where you could do that would be so much fun. Like imagine like exploring through some of the back alleys of Castelia City and throwing Pokeballs at wild Pokemon that you see and stuff. It would have been so much fun, but it seems like it's probably just going to be like a more traditional game where you're going to have to battle every wild Pokemon individually and catch them, which I'm just not really a fan of because after Legends Arceus, I would love to see them just bring over that mechanic to pretty much every standard main series game, but it is what it is. It seems like that is pretty much what we're going to have now for the next main series games, which are going to be coming out next year. And so as we get more and more information about these 2024 Pokemon games, it definitely does seem like it is going to be based around Unova, and it's going to be something very interesting with what they're planning with this whole futuristic paradox phenomenon. So I can't wait to see what they have planned. And yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, definitely be sure to click that like button and also subscribe to the channel as well, as I'm going to be talking more about the 2024 Pokemon games as we get more information. So definitely be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on that. Comment down below and let me know what you guys think about this. Are you guys disappointed that it's probably not going to be a Legend style game? Or are you excited that it's going to be something along the lines of Pokemon Black 3 and White 3? Go follow me on Twitter at @Aero so you can be featured in videos, and also join my Discord server as well. We've got a bunch of people in there who are always talking about Pokemon and Smash Bros. And Nintendo, so definitely be sure to join that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching.